They tore my boarding pass in half before I could even sit down. The head flight attendant's eyes held the same cold judgment I'd seen my entire life. But this time, his voice carried across the entire first-class cabin. "You don't belong here." Phones lifted. Passengers froze. I stayed silent, letting the humiliation seep into every corner of the room. What no one knew, not him, not the captain, not even the airline's CEO, was that I owned nearly half of this company, and with one phone call, I could make his world collapse before we even left the ground. I slid into seat 2A, the plush leather cool against my palm. My crossbody bag rested beneath the seat, my notebook already open to a blank page. These flights were part of my quiet ritual, blending in, observing, measuring the culture of the airline I partly owned. The boarding process was smooth until Ethan Briggs appeared. His uniform was crisp, his smile absent. He glanced at my ticket, then at me, and something in his gaze shifted. Cold, appraising. "Let me see that again," he said flatly. I handed over my boarding pass. He scanned it, then looked me up and down. "This doesn't seem right. You don't belong here." The words were loud enough to make the older couple in 2B turn their heads. I kept my voice even. "It's a valid first-class ticket." He didn't reply. Instead, with deliberate slowness, he tore the boarding pass clean in half. Gasps rippled through the cabin. My fingers tightened around my pen, but I didn't speak. The hum of phone cameras activating filled the air. "Gather your belongings," he ordered, stepping closer. His shoulder brushed mine. "No," shoved, as I rose. The shove was subtle enough to deny, forceful enough to humiliate. I slid my notebook into my bag, jotting one last quick note. Tone, volume, crowd reaction. As I stepped into the aisle, I noticed him glancing toward the back. There, near row 4, a passenger in a hooded sweatshirt held a phone angled perfectly toward me. Not furtive, not accidental, too steady, too well positioned. Our eyes met for a fraction of a second. He didn't lower the phone. Ethan's voice carried down the aisle. "We'll have security meet us at the gate." Murmurs swelled. Some passengers averted their eyes. Others leaned into the drama, lenses tracking me. I didn't give them words, only the sight of my calm, measured pace. In the jet bridge, the temperature dropped. 2 airport security officers waited, glancing between me and Ethan. "Passenger from 2A, he announced. "Improper documentation, possible seat tampering." He handed them the torn boarding pass like it was evidence. One officer studied me, then the pass, then Ethan. The other was already reaching for his radio. I stayed silent, my hands resting lightly on my bag. Every detail mattered now. The tone he used, the sequence of events, the anonymous cameraman in the cabin. This wasn't just humiliation. It was choreography, and I intended to find out who was pulling the strings. Somewhere behind us, the hooded passenger emerged into the jet bridge, still filming. His lens found me again, steady, unwavering. That was when I knew. This wasn't just a bad day. It was the opening move of a game someone else thought they were controlling. But they didn't know me. Not yet. The security officers led me down a side corridor, past the hum of departing flights, into a narrow room with beige walls and no windows. A metal table and 3 chairs waited under the cold glare of fluorescent lights. The door shut behind us with a click. I'd been in rooms like this before, not as a suspect, but as a silent observer. Part of owning a company, especially one that serves millions, is knowing how its machinery behaves when no one thinks you're watching. That's why I travel incognito. Jeans, simple shirt, hair tied back, no entourage, no special treatment. Just a regular passenger, or so they think. The door opened again. Lena Morales, the young flight attendant from first class, stepped inside holding my bag. Her eyes flicked toward the cameras in the ceiling before she moved closer. "Your bag, ma'am," she said aloud. But as she handed it over, her other hand pressed something into the side pocket, a smooth plastic card. I felt its edges, a crew ID, not mine. "Thank you," I murmured. Her voice dropped to a whisper, almost lost in the hum of the air vent. "I'm sorry. This isn't right." Then she was gone, the door closing behind her. Moments later, another figure entered. Tall, salt and pepper hair, wire-rimmed glasses. "I'm Dr. Caleb Foster," he introduced himself, placing a small notebook on the table. "I was in 4C. I saw what happened, and I'm staying until this is resolved." The officers exchanged glances but said nothing. Then came the man I'd been waiting for, Kevin Brandt, customer service manager, embroidered name tag gleaming. His smile was thin, rehearsed. "Ms. Pierce," he began, sliding into the chair opposite me. I hadn't told him my name. I raised an eyebrow. "That's interesting. I don't recall introducing myself." His smile didn't falter. "We just want to make this right. As a gesture of goodwill, I can offer you a travel voucher, first class, anywhere we fly. A voucher for being humiliated in front of an entire cabin." I kept my expression neutral. "No." Kevin leaned forward. "It's the quickest way to move past this. No paperwork, no delays." Behind him, Dr. Foster cleared his throat. "She hasn't even had a chance to tell her side. And you already know her name?" Kevin's eyes flicked toward the door. "We have records," he said quickly, but there was a strain in his voice now. Inside my bag, my fingers traced the stolen crew ID. My mind began to slot pieces into place. Ethan's aggression, the hooded cameraman, Lena's warning, and now a manager who knew exactly who I was before I spoke. Someone inside the company had tipped them off. The question was, why? Kevin left the room, his shoes clicking against the tile, leaving me with the steady hum of the vent and Dr. Foster's patient gaze. My phone, still in airplane mode, vibrated with cued notifications once I switched it on. Messages from Noah appeared first. "Don't react yet. Internal email circulating. Labels you disruptive passenger." I tapped the file he'd forwarded. There it was, a mass email sent to security, management, and PR. Passenger Naomi Pierce refused crew instructions, caused disturbance in cabin, potential safety risk. The phrasing was deliberate, designed to tilt perception before any investigation. Before I could digest it, the door opened again. A woman in a tailored navy suit stepped in, carrying a leather folio. "Paula Sloan, Corporate Communications," she said briskly, sliding into the chair Kevin had vacated. She laid a packet on the table, pages neatly clipped, pen ready. "This is our settlement agreement. Standard terms," she explained. "We'll refund your ticket, offer a $5,000 travel credit, and a formal apology letter. In exchange, you sign this non-disclosure agreement and agree not to pursue further action." I glanced at Dr. Foster, who shook his head slowly. "Interesting," I said, flipping through the packet. "You've prepared this without taking my statement." "It's the cleanest resolution for all parties," Paula replied, her tone cool. My phone buzzed again. Noah had sent another link, passenger videos of the incident now hitting social media. I tapped one, but my eyes narrowed instantly. The clip showed Ethan confronting me, but the audio cut out exactly at the moment his lips formed the words, "You don't belong here." A sudden, awkward silence replaced the sting of his voice. Someone had edited the evidence. I set the phone face down on the table. "Your offer is noted," I told Paula, "but I decline. I prefer the official process, statements, evidence, and an independent review." Her smile thinned. "That will be considerably more complicated." "I can handle complicated." She gathered her folder, rising from the chair with mechanical grace. "We'll proceed as you wish," she said, though her eyes betrayed annoyance. When she left, Dr. Foster leaned in. "They're moving fast. Too fast. That NDA was ready before you even sat down." I nodded. "Which means the decision to contain this was made before the incident ended." The stolen crew ID in my bag felt heavier now, as if urging me to connect it to the edited footage and the internal leak of my name. The pattern was forming. Humiliate, mislabel, silence. But they were underestimating me. And they were forgetting one thing. Once I decide to fight, I don't stop halfway. The moment I was alone, I slipped my phone from my pocket and opened an encrypted app few outside my circle knew existed. The line pulsed twice before connecting. "Naomi," Elliot Hart's voice came through, measured, calm, the voice of the man who'd built Ether Air from 2 leased jets into a global fleet. "I need the 5-year complaint records. Every filed grievance involving in-flight discrimination or crew misconduct," I said quietly. There was a pause, the faint shuffle of paper on his end. "You'll have them in 30 minutes. But Naomi, we have a rat. Someone in-house is feeding your movements to the wrong people." I felt my grip tighten. "Then I'll set a trap." The door opened briefly. Lena slipped inside under the pretext of delivering water. She set the cup down, then leaned in just enough for her whisper to reach me. "They've called me for a performance review tomorrow, out of the blue." My jaw clenched. "That's retaliation. Document everything," I told her under my breath. She gave the faintest nod before leaving, but the tightness around her eyes told me she understood the stakes. When the room was quiet again, I finally examined the crew ID she had slipped into my bag earlier. The photo was Ethan's. Same smirk, same sharp jawline. But the name printed beneath was Marissa Vance. A scan of the embedded RFID chip pulled up data that didn't match either of them. It belonged to a female attendant who'd been terminated over a year ago. A chill worked its way down my spine. This wasn't just a rogue crew member losing his temper. This was a network. People recycling credentials, masking identities, manipulating access. I reached for my notebook, sketching the chain as I saw it. Ethan's face, Marissa's printed name, a defunct RFID profile, at least 3 layers of obfuscation. Why? To bypass internal audits? To move unseen through restricted zones? Or to carry out something they didn't want traced back to the real actor? My phone pinged, a secure file from Elliot. "Preliminary batch," his message read. I scrolled through incident summaries. Passengers removed mid-flight, complaints closed without action, employees reassigned quietly after multiple accusations. Ethan's name appeared 3 times, each entry tagged insufficient evidence. Evidence had been disappearing for years. Dr. Foster re-entered, noting my expression. "You found something." "More than something," I said, closing the file. "I found a trail. And trails, when followed carefully, have a way of leading straight to the people who think they're untouchable." I stepped into the corridor outside the holding room, escorted by one of the security officers who clearly wanted to be anywhere else. My phone was already in my hand, the encrypted dialer open. The number I entered wasn't stored. It lived only in my memory. The line connected to a calm, clipped voice. "Federal Aviation Safety Board. This is a passenger on Ether Air Flight AAR 211, Atlanta to San Francisco," I said, keeping my tone measured. "You have probable cause to inspect the crew for immediate operational compliance. Prioritize the head flight attendant." Before the operator could respond, I merged a second line, another number, equally untraceable. "Ethics Council for Commercial Aviation," came the greeting. "This is an urgent referral," I continued, careful not to name myself. "Multiple prior incidents tied to crew member Ethan Briggs. Recommend removal pending safety evaluation. Acting now could prevent liability for the entire carrier." I ended both calls. 75 seconds total. Inside the holding room, I refreshed the secure channel to Noah. "Watch gate B12. Let me know in real time." 5 minutes later, his reply popped up. "Boarding paused. Manifest updated. Ethan removed for crew performance assessment." I almost smiled. 1 call, or in this case, 2, can rearrange an entire chain of command. But then came a second message from Noah. "Replacement FA assigned. Julian Cross. Order signed by CFO Victor Shaw." I frowned. The chief financial officer had no operational role in crew assignments. His domain was budgets, not boarding gates. Why would he be the one authorizing a replacement? Dr. Foster returned from a quick hallway break. "Something's happening out there," he reported. "Passengers are murmuring. First-class cabin looks unsettled." I pictured it. Ethan's abrupt removal, whispers crawling through the rows, phones lighting up with speculation. The original plan, to humiliate me quietly, was slipping from someone's hands. Still, the Victor Shaw anomaly gnawed at me. I pulled up his profile from our corporate intranet. 22 years in finance, 0 operational oversight. Unless his reach extended through unofficial channels, procurement contracts, vendor relationships, maybe even staffing agencies that supplied temporary crew, which meant Shaw could move people in and out without triggering the usual audits. And if he'd stepped in this quickly, he either wanted to contain the damage or redirect it. The crew ID in my bag suddenly felt like part of a larger ledger, one where names, faces, and access rights were shuffled like playing cards. And somewhere in that deck, Victor Shaw was holding far too many aces. By the time I was escorted back toward the main concourse, the atmosphere around Gate B12 had shifted from routine to siege. The jet bridge door was sealed, a uniformed guard posted like a sentry. Passengers milled in confused clusters, their voices rising over the boarding announcements for other flights. Beyond the glass wall, camera crews pressed against the ropes, tripods sprouting like weeds. Microphones bobbed toward anyone in an Ether Air uniform. My phone buzzed with a flood of alerts. The company's stock ticker sliding red. Finance blogs speculating on an in-flight incident causing operational disruption. I caught sight of Martin Vale's name on an internal memo Noah forwarded to me. It was a calm the waters directive to all staff. This situation involves multiple perspectives. Avoid assigning blame until corporate reviews all evidence. It reeked of neutrality as a shield. More about controlling the narrative than uncovering the truth. Then my secure inbox chimed with something stranger. An unmarked file drop from an anonymous sender. The subject line was a single word: consider. I opened the folder. 3 PDF complaint reports, each stamped closed. Insufficient evidence. All 3 named Ethan Briggs. Each report described strikingly similar incidents, targeting passengers of color, escalating minor disputes into removals, using crew safety as justification. One even included a passenger statement about a male voice over intercom, giving the go-ahead for removal before any confrontation occurred. A 4th file was a video. I pressed play and leaned closer. It was the same incident from this morning, but uncut, with full audio. There was Ethan in the aisle, holding my boarding pass. His voice was as I remembered. "You don't belong here." But layered beneath, faint but distinct, came another voice over his earpiece, filtered through the plane's internal comms. "Do it now. Make it clean." The voice wasn't Ethan's. It was older, deeper, with the cadence of someone accustomed to giving orders without being questioned. I rewound the clip twice, isolating the moment. Whoever had sent me this footage wanted me to know that Ethan hadn't acted entirely on his own. Someone had set the stage, feeding him the cue to strip me of my seat and my dignity. Vale's memo about multiple perspectives now felt like more than PR. It was a smokescreen to protect someone higher up the chain. And if the voice on that comm was who I suspected, the incident at Gate B12 wasn't a rogue act of prejudice. It was a calculated move, ordered from somewhere in the company's shadows. The media crush outside Gate B12 was now impossible to ignore. Every time a uniform moved, cameras pivoted like weather vanes. My phone lit up with Noah's message: "You should speak now, before they rewrite the whole story without you." I stepped away from the security cordon and pulled a slim, matte black device from my bag. It wasn't a phone any civilian could buy. It streamed directly to a private uplink. Within seconds, I was live to one of the largest independent news networks in the country. "This morning, I was removed from my first-class seat without cause," I began, my voice steady despite the noise around me. "My name is Naomi Pierce. I am a 46% shareholder of Ether Air, and I'm calling for an immediate emergency meeting of our board of directors to address systemic misconduct within this company. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Even some of the reporters froze, recalibrating their questions. On a nearby monitor in the gate area, my own image stared back at me, confident, unflinching. Somewhere in the terminal, Martin Vale was watching. I pictured his hand tightening around whatever glass of whiskey he'd grabbed to steady himself. His kingdom had just learned it wasn't entirely his. Then Noah's urgent ping came through. Brace yourself, they're hitting back. A financial blog, notorious for laundering corporate smear campaigns, had just published an exclusive investigation. The headline blared, "Pierce, shadow figure for offshore consortium?" The article claimed I wasn't the true owner of the 46%, painting me as a front for an unnamed foreign investment group. They quoted anonymous corporate insiders, questioning my legitimacy and even hinting at regulatory violations. I scanned the text quickly, noting the precision of the attack. It was designed to sow doubt without directly accusing me of a crime. The kind of hit piece that lives online forever, reshared by anyone who wants to believe it. The comments section was already split. Half the readers applauding my stand, the other half parroting the blog's insinuations. Vale didn't need to prove the smear. He just needed it to exist long enough to blunt the force of my revelation. I ended the live feed without acknowledging the hit piece directly. The truth was, my holdings were clean, documented through layers of legitimate acquisition, but explaining that in real time would be playing defense. And right now, I needed to stay on offense. Emergency meeting, I repeated into my comm to Elliot. We do it today. No delays. If Vale thought a shadow over my legitimacy would slow me down, he was about to find out what happens when you try to erase someone who built her own name from nothing. The boardroom at Ether Air's headquarters was designed to intimidate. 40 feet of glass table, a panoramic skyline view, and enough polished chrome to blind you under the midday sun. But today, the intimidation was mine to wield. I slid a thick binder onto the table. These are 5 years of passenger complaints involving in-flight discrimination, crew misconduct, and procedural violations, I said, my voice carrying through the room. 3 of them name Ethan Briggs directly. All were closed without meaningful action. Around the table, some directors shifted uncomfortably. Martin Vale, seated at the head, leaned back with that performative smirk he wore when he thought someone was bluffing. I pressed a button on the remote, and the speakers filled with Vale's voice from a recorded meeting. We're an airline, not a social justice workshop. People will complain. Let them. Gasps from 2 of the newer board members. Vale's smirk faltered. My motion is simple, I continued. Effective immediately. Removal of Martin Vale as CEO on an interim basis pending investigation and suspension of Ethan Briggs. Before Vale could respond, the double doors opened. Ethan himself stepped in, flanked by legal counsel. His face was pale, jaw tight. Before you vote, he said, you should know I wasn't acting on my own. Murmurs erupted. Ethan held up a small, matte black earpiece. I was wearing this. I was told what to do that day, word for word. The voice said, do it now, make it clean. The general counsel took the earpiece and passed it to our head of technical operations, who frowned almost immediately. This isn't Ether-issued equipment. Frequencies off our standard. It's an external comm device, untraceable through our logs. I let the silence stretch, letting the weight of the revelation sink in. Whoever gave that order was operating outside normal protocol, using tools designed to vanish after the job was done. Vale tried to recover. Even if that's true, it doesn't absolve him of responsibility. No, I agreed. But it widens the circle of accountability beyond a single scapegoat. The board secretary called for the vote. 1 by 1, hands rose around the glass table. 7 in favor of interim removal, 3 against, 1 abstention. Vale's reign was effectively over, for now. An independent committee would take over the investigation, reporting directly to the board. Ethan was suspended pending review, barred from all Ether facilities. As the meeting adjourned, Vale's glare found mine. "Enjoy your little victory," he muttered as he passed. "This isn't the victory," I said quietly. "It's the opening." The first strike came within 24 hours. A gossip site with a reputation for laundering corporate dirt published my home address alongside grainy, out-of-context photos of me with business associates. Social media trolls took the bait, spinning half-truths into something uglier. By nightfall, a second leak hit. This time, the address of my aunt in Savannah. She called me, voice shaking, to say a strange car had been idling outside her house all afternoon. Then came the fire. It happened just past midnight, a small blaze in the detached garage behind her home. The fire department contained it quickly. No injuries, but the timing was no coincidence. It was a message. I didn't waste time on outrage. Instead, I called Noah. Run Victor Shaw's financial footprint, every shell company, every joint venture. By morning, he sent me a file thick enough to choke the printer. The findings were damning. Shaw held minority stakes in Sentinel Gate Security, the firm contracted to manage our airport screening zones, and in Civic Strategies PR, Paula Sloan's own crisis communications firm. Different names, different industries, but when you followed the money, they converged on the same offshore holding. It was a perfect loop. Sentinel controlled who got through security and what was recorded. Civic Strategies controlled the story after the fact. Together, they could orchestrate an incident from provocation to public perception, leaving no fingerprints. Buried in the same dossier was an audio file, sourced from a whistleblower in Sentinel. I played it through my secure speaker. The voice was the same one from the uncut cabin video, the one that had told Ethan, "Do it now, make it clean." Then, a chilling line. "And make sure the garage burns. She'll get the message." I felt a cold clarity settle over me. This wasn't just about me. It was about protecting a network that had been profiting off intimidation and silence for years. By midday, I was at the downtown field office of the Federal Transport Oversight Bureau. I handed the agent the audio file, the financial records, and a concise statement. "This connects an airline executive to a coordinated campaign of harassment, evidence suppression, and physical intimidation," I said. The agent listened without interruption, his expression hardening. "We'll open an immediate inquiry," he confirmed. Walking out into the sun, I knew this wouldn't stop the attacks. If anything, it would escalate them. But for the first time, the people pulling the strings had something to lose, and I was going to make sure they lost it all. The conference room in Ether Air's downtown tower was crowded with reporters, union representatives, and a handful of skeptical shareholders. Elliot stood at my side, his presence as steadying as the weight of the flash drive in my palm. "This," I said into the row of microphones, "is the complete record of every unresolved passenger complaint from the last 5 years, 217 in total, plus the internal timelines showing exactly how and when each case was buried." Gasps rose as I clicked through a live projection of the database. Names, dates, case numbers. Patterns emerged like bruises. Repeat offenders protected. Evidence disappearing days before quarterly reports. Insufficient evidence stamped like a reflex. Elliot took over, outlining our 90-day reform plan. Mandatory bias training for all crew and management. A strict service-level agreement for handling complaints. The formation of an independent oversight council. And performance-based incentives tied directly to customer satisfaction metrics. Every step would be public, tracked, and audited. Then I brought up a slide marked Case Study, Lena Morales. 3 years ago, Lena was nearly terminated for a supposed procedural error during boarding, I explained. The investigation at the time found no wrongdoing, but the blemish stayed in her record. From the corner, Lena shifted uneasily, unsure where I was going. "This week," I continued, "we pulled the original HR log. It showed that her personnel file had been altered after the investigation by Ethan Briggs. The modification was tagged with an authorization code belonging to CFO Victor Shaw. The room fell silent. I let the pause linger before delivering the next line. This was not just a cover-up. It was a coordinated effort to remove an employee who had refused to participate in discriminatory practices. I turned to Lena. You are officially cleared of all allegations, and effective today, you are promoted to Vice President of Customer Experience. The Oversight Council will report directly to you. Applause broke out. Not the polite kind, but the cathartic burst of people recognizing justice in real time. Cameras zoomed in on Lena's stunned, tearful expression. By the time the press conference ended, the shift in public sentiment was palpable. News alerts described a bold transparency offensive and a corporate reckoning. Social media feeds that had been ambivalent or hostile now flooded with support. Civic Strategies PR could spin all they wanted. Against hard data and public reform, their whisper campaign was dust. The tide had turned, and for the first time since stepping onto Flight AAR-211, I felt the momentum at my back. The bait had to be convincing, dangerous enough to tempt Victor Shaw, yet controlled enough to keep me safe. I arranged it through an intermediary, a whispered proposal about a quiet settlement to make the reforms vanish in exchange for a lucrative side contract with a foreign ground services company. Paula Sloan would be the broker. We picked the meeting spot carefully, an upscale hotel suite wired to the teeth by the Federal Transport Oversight Bureau. Cameras hidden in air vents, mics under the marble table, even a fiber optic lens in the crystal chandelier. I arrived first, dressed in muted tones, appearing hesitant, even a little desperate. Minutes later, Paula swept in with Victor at her side. He didn't bother with pleasantries. Here's how it works, Victor began, sliding a folder toward me. We make this noise disappear. In return, you ensure my partners take over the ground service contracts in 3 major hubs. No oversight committee, no compliance training, clean slate. Well, Paula added smoothly. Everyone walks away richer, and the press never hears another word. I kept my voice low, as if negotiating. And the incident on AAR-211, the order Ethan claimed he got? Victor leaned back, smirking. Vale was the perfect shield. Everyone assumed it was his arrogance. But the voice in that earpiece, he tapped his own ear, was mine. One move to remove a problem passenger and tighten my control over who really runs this airline from the tarmac up. The admission was clear, the arrogance intoxicating. I let the silence hang, pretending to weigh the offer, while in a van outside, federal agents marked the timestamp and confirmed the recording. I'll think about it, I said finally, standing. But I don't make decisions without my lawyer. That was the cue. Agents swept in through the suite's double doors, badges flashing. Victor's smirk vanished, replaced by the slack-jawed shock of a man realizing his own cleverness had trapped him. Paula froze, hands raised, her carefully composed face fracturing under the weight of the moment. By nightfall, Victor was charged with fraud, anti-competitive collusion, and multiple counts of corporate misconduct. Paula was taken in for questioning, her ties to both Civic Strategies and Sentinel Gate Security under investigation. As for Vale, the independent committee concluded he hadn't directly ordered the "you don't belong here" incident, but his years of fostering a culture of impunity made him complicit in the environment that allowed it. He remained suspended pending further review. Walking out of the hotel, I breathed in the cool night air. The sting had worked, but this wasn't the end. There was still one chapter left, and it was mine to write. The reforms began not with a press release, but with a signature. In a sunlit hall lined with reporters and employees, I signed the Ether Air Charter of Ethics alongside the chair of the Independent Aviation Oversight Council. Cameras clicked, but what mattered was the ripple it would send through every terminal, office, and cockpit. Mandatory bias and cultural competency training rolled out across the system. Every pilot, every flight attendant, every manager. Completion wasn't a formality. It was tied to promotions, bonuses, and in some cases, continued employment. The new service level agreement for complaints set clear deadlines and transparency checkpoints. No more vanishing grievances. At the heart of it was the Customer Justice Desk, a physical and digital hub where passengers could file concerns directly with an independent team. I appointed Lena Morales to run it. Her promotion to Chief Operating Officer was announced the same day, drawing a standing ovation from staff who'd seen her rise from the aisle to the boardroom. For the CEO seat, the board tried to push my name forward. I declined. Leadership doesn't have to be from the top, I told them. Instead, I nominated Elliot Hart as honorary chairman, a living reminder of the company's roots, and gave Lena the operational reins. Change, if it was going to last, had to be driven from those who understood the customer experience firsthand. Weeks later, as I walked through our training center, a familiar voice called my name. Ethan Briggs stood in the hallway, hands clasped, his posture stripped of arrogance. "I completed the bias training," he said quietly. "I didn't realize how much harm I'd done until I saw myself in those case studies. I'm sorry for all of it." He asked if he could record a public apology, not just to me, but to every passenger he'd mistreated. I agreed, on the condition that it be unscripted. He nodded, eyes steady. The final touch to our transformation came in the form of the Martha Pierce Scholarship Fund, named after my grandmother. It would provide flight training and hospitality education for candidates from underrepresented communities. Her belief that travel could connect worlds was now stitched into the company's future. Months later, I found myself in the main terminal, pausing before a new installation, a wall of portraits celebrating the most diverse, customer-championed employees of the year. I traced the edge of one frame, feeling the quiet power of it. No speeches, no cameras, just the silent truth that the rules had changed, and this time, they were built to last.